We'll start with the development of your medulla oblongata, followed by pons and also the cerebellum. Okay. So this is the picture of your brain vesicles, that is your secondary brain vesicles. Okay. So what is the histology of these structures will look like? What are the three layers we can see here? What are the three layers we can see in the development of your brain and spinal cord? The three layers what we see here is, this is the marginal layer, followed by your mantle layer, and then followed by your marginal layer. The formation of the three cell layers or zones are similar or same in all the brain structures formation. Okay. So we all know only the ventral part will grow larger in size. This is the ventral part and this will be your dorsal part. The structures which divides your ventral and dorsal part is called as, what that structure is called as? It is called as sulcus limitans. Okay. That is called as sulcus limitans. We can see differential growth in the development of your medulla oblongata. As a result of differential growth, only the ventral part will grow rapidly and it will increase in size, whereas your dorsal part will remain the same. Okay, so now this dorsal part, it is called as basal lamina, and the ventral part is called as alar lamina. And this cavity, whatever you are seeing here, is going to develop as the floor of the fourth ventricle. Okay. So after certain time, due to the formation of your pontine flexure, where we can see the pontine flexure. Pontine flexure is a bending or the flexure that takes place between your metencephalon and myelencephalon here. Okay, this will be the pontine flexure. So as a result of your pontine flexure, this alar lamina, where we can see the roof plate will get thin and it will also get elongated to form a structure like this. Okay, so now this is the roof plate and this is your alar lamina. Once the roof gets thin and extended, your alar lamina will be pushed towards the dorsolateral side. It will be pushed towards your dorsolateral side. Okay. We all know alar lamina is sensory in function and dorsal lamina is motor in function. So in the alar lamina region we can see the efferent columns, and in the basal lamina region we can see the afferent columns. So in this particular development, that is in the development of your medulla oblongata, in the basal region we can see 3 sets of columns, whereas in the alar lamina region we can see 4 sets of columns. Okay, any doubts? This one. Dorsolateral side. Once your roof plate will get thin and extended, your alar lamina part will be pushed towards the dorsolateral side. Okay. So in the basal lamina we can see 3 sets of columns, and in the alar lamina region we can see the 4 sets of columns. What are the columns we can see here? A batch and B batch. What are the columns we can see here? Can you name them? So what columns we can see in the basal and alar lamina? First and second batch. We can see the somatic efferent column, followed by general visceral or special visceral. We can see the special visceral efferent columns followed by general visceral efferent columns. Okay. Next, in the alar lamina, stop talking. In the alar lamina region we can see the general visceral efferent column followed by special visceral afferent columns. Then we have general somatic afferent column followed by a special somatic afferent columns. So these are the columns we can see in the development of your medulla oblongata. So your somatic afferent nucleus will innervate into which region? It will innervate into your skin, muscles and tendons. Okay. And your special visceral present in the basal lamina will innervate into your larynx and pharynx part. Okay. Your general viscera will include the abdomen, respiratory tract and cardiovascular tract. Okay, or your cardiovascular viscera. The same general viscera will also be the abdomen, respiratory tract and also the cardiovascular one, similar like this. Okay, the special viscera here is your tongue. The general somatic again skin, muscle and tendon part. The special sensory somatic afferent columns are your hearing pathway, vision pathway and your balancing capacity. Okay, this is the functions of your each columns. What about the cranial nerves? Which cranial nerves are related here? Mainly the 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th. Along with this, the 5th and 8th cranial nerves is also related in this region. Okay, this is how the development of your medulla oblongata will take place. Any doubts? Any doubts in this? So total we can see the 7 columns. In the basal lamina region there are only 3 columns and in the alar lamina region there are total 4 columns. Okay, I have also mentioned about each and every column's function or the parts that will innervate, and these are the few cranial nerves that are related to your medulla oblongata region. What do you mean by bulbopontine expansion? So after your alar lamina move towards the dorsolateral side, there are few cells that move. I'll write it here, there are few cells which move in the downward direction and give rise to your inferior olivary nucleus, and some cells will move towards the upward direction to give rise to the pontine nucleus. So this expansion of your cells or the cells of alar lamina starting from the pontine nucleus to your inferior olivary nucleus is called as bulbopontine expansion. Okay, so this is called as bulbopontine expansion. Okay, development of your hindbrain. The caudal part of myelencephalon has a central canal and forms the closed part of your medulla oblongata. Rostrally, the central canal expands as the cavity of the fourth ventricle, and thus the rostral part of myelencephalon forms the open part of your medulla oblongata. The floor of the fourth ventricle is derived from the myelencephalon and also from the mesencephalon region. On either side of midline, the floor consists of the basal and alar lamina, which are separated from each other by a longitudinal sulcus called the sulcus limitans. The basal and alar lamina is similar to that of your spinal cord, which contains your motor and sensory nuclei. These nuclei are arranged in the longitudinal columns. In spinal cord, as discussed earlier, each lamina contains two columns, somatic and visceral. But in the brainstem, to supply the derivatives of your branchial arches and also your pharyngeal apparatus arches, the development around this region contains a special branchial column appear between the somatic and visceral columns of each and every lamina present in your medulla region. In addition, a special somatic column appears in the most lateral part of the alar lamina to receive impulse that has special sensations of hearing and balance. Here I have written your special somatic afferent column is responsible for the vision pathway and also hearing pathway and also your balancing capacity. Okay. Thus in brainstem, the basal lamina contains only 3 columns and in alar lamina it contains 4 columns. So these are the columns. Stop talking. So these are the columns we can see in your medulla oblongata region. Okay. This is the picture of your columns present in the medulla oblongata part. This region is your basal lamina and this region is your alar lamina. Next. So your somatic efferent contains your hypoglossal nucleus and your special visceral efferent contains a nucleus called nucleus of ambiguous. Your general visceral efferent contains dorsal nucleus of your vagus. And also your general visceral efferent, because they both are similar in function, they are innervating your skin, muscle and also the tendon region. So they both contain the dorsal nucleus of vagus. Okay. The special visceral efferent that contains your nucleus tractus of solitarius. The general somatic efferent contains spinal tract of trigeminal nerve, and the last one, that is special somatic efferent, contains your vestibulocochlear nucleus. Okay. These are the important nucleus you should know, and also the cranial nerves. The next topic is development of your pons and cerebellum. Okay. development of your pons is very similar to the development of your medulla oblongata. In the development of your pons also we can see the formation of 3 layers followed by the formation of your alar lamina and basal lamina along with the sulcus limitans. And in your pons also we can see the roof plate getting extended on both the sides, so that your dorsolateral part is now formed by the alar lamina region. Okay. There is no bulbopontine expansion in this area. So whatever the pontine nucleus formed in your medulla oblongata region is now present here in this area. Okay, so now this is your pontine nucleus. Okay, apart from that, all the columns present both in your medulla oblongata and also in the pons are similar. In the pons also, in the alar basal lamina region we can see 3 sets of columns, and in the alar lamina we can see the 4 sets of columns. Okay, the only changes is the cranial nerves and its nucleus. In the pons, the cranial nerves related here is 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th cranial nerves. These are the cranial nerves that are related in your pons region, and nucleus will also change here. Any idea which nucleus are related here in the pons part? Which is the 5th cranial nerve? Trigeminal nerve. So which nucleus we can see here? Spinal nuclei of trigeminal nerve we can see here. What about the 6th one? Which one is the 6th cranial nerve? What about the 7th cranial nerve? And the 8th one? Vestibulocochlear. Okay. So which nucleus can be seen in the vestibulocochlear cranial nerve part? What about the 7th cranial nerve then? Okay. The pons arises from the ventral part of the metencephalon, brain vesicle part. It also receives a contribution from the alar lamina of the myelencephalon in the form of the cranial part of the bulbopontine expansion or extension. This extension comes to lie ventral to the metencephalon and give rise to the pontine nucleus. As in the myelencephalon, the roof of the metencephalon becomes thin and broad. The alar lamina and basal lamina are thus oriented similar to your medulla oblongata part. The lateral part of each alar lamina becomes specialized to form the cerebellum. This part I will discuss later. So these are the columns and particular cranial nerve nucleus we can see in the pons region. In the somatic afferent region we can see the motor nucleus of your 6th cranial nerve. In the special visceral afferent columns we can see the motor nucleus of your 5th and 7th cranial nerves. In the general visceral afferent we can see the superior salivatory nucleus and also the lacrimatory nucleus. The general visceral afferent and the special visceral afferent give rise to same nuclei, that is the nucleus tractus of your solitarius. The general somatic afferent will give rise to main sensory nucleus and also the spinal nerves or nucleus. Special somatic afferent will give rise to your vestibulocochlear nucleus. Okay, so these are the nucleus we can see in your pons region. Any doubts in the development of pons? Development of pons and development of medulla oblongata are very similar. In both the development we can see the formation of alar lamina, basal lamina and also the sulcus limitans, and the roof plate will get extended and it will become thin. As a result, your alar lamina will be pushed towards the dorsolateral side. Later, in both the regions we can see columns. In the basal region we can see 3 columns. Those are somatic efferent, general visceral efferent and special visceral efferent. In your alar lamina region we can see 4 columns. Okay. In the medulla oblongata region, the cranial nerves related are 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th. These are the main cranial nerves. Along with this we can also see 5th and 8th cranial nerves. Okay. In your Pons region we can mainly see the 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th cranial nerves. Nucleus, you have to remember the names. You have to study the nucleus and remember the names. Okay. Any doubts in this? Any doubts? Okay. Then we'll move on to the development of your cerebellum part. So here you can see the point. The lateral part of each alar lamina, which is often called as the rhombic lip, becomes specialized to form the cerebellum. So what are all the parts of cerebellum? What parts we can see in the development of cerebellum? So now the formation or the development of your pons is taking place. When once your alar lamina is pushed towards the dorsolateral side, this particular region will get thick in structure like this. Okay. So this part is called as rhombic lip. Rhombic lip. From this rhombic lip, your entire cerebellum is going to develop. Okay. So whatever the rhombic lip form on both the side or on the right and left side will now start moving towards the central part like this. Okay. And both the rhombic lip will meet at one point. So once this happens, this is how the structure will look. So this is the rhombic lip. Okay. And once this formation takes place, there will be further development. And that further development will lead to the formation of 2 different parts of your cerebellum. So what are the 2 different parts of your cerebellum? Tell me what are the 2 different parts of your cerebellum. This cavity what you are seeing here is going to develop as the upper part of your 4th ventricle. In the medulla oblongata we have seen the neurosil develop into your floor of the 4th ventricle, but in the development of pons and cerebellum we can see the neurosil getting developed into the upper part of your 4th ventricle. Okay. So now this is the 2 parts of your cerebellum. This is called the intraventricular part. It is called as intraventricular part, and whatever the structure you are seeing here, this is called as the extraventricular part. This is called as extraventricular part. Okay. So your intraventricular part will give rise to your vermis, and your extraventricular part will give rise to two cerebellar hemispheres. Okay, this is how the formation of your cerebellum will take place. First, we can see the formation of rhombic lip on either side of your roof plate. The rhombic lip then later start moving towards the central part or towards the central line of your roof plate. Once the fusion of your rhombic lip takes place, we can see the formation of two parts of your cerebellum, that is the intraventricular part and extraventricular part. The intraventricular part will give rise to your future vermis, and the extraventricular part will give rise to your future cerebellar hemispheres. Okay, so if you see the structure of your cerebellum, the white part, the white matter is present in the inner aspect, and your grey matter is present in the outer aspect, right? In your cerebellum, white matter is present in the inner aspect and grey matter is present in the outer aspect. But if you see this structure where we have discussed about the cell layers, your mantle zone will give rise to which matter? White matter or grey matter? Mantle zone will give rise to grey matter, and your marginal zone will give rise to white matter. So basically this is present in the outer aspect and this is present in the inner aspect, right? So what happens in the development of medulla oblongata is, whatever the cells that present in your marginal cell layer will move out of the mantle cell layer and migrate outwards your marginal cell layer like this. Okay, as a result, now your grey matter is present in the outer aspect. Okay, and your white matter will come in the inner aspect of the cerebellum. Okay, so whatever the nucleus or the cells that remains in your mantle cell layer or zone is called as the intercerebellar nuclei. Okay, there are 4 in number. What are those? What are the intercerebellar nuclei? Can you name them? It is your dentate nuclei, then emboliform nuclei. What about the other two? Dentate, emboliform. What about the other two nuclei you see in the cerebellum? Dentate, emboliform, followed by what are the nucleus we can see in the cerebellum part? Dentate, emboliform, followed by fastigal and one more, or fastigial. Okay, fastigial. What are the 4 nucleus we can see in the cerebellum? The cerebellum develops from the dorsolateral part of the alar lamina of your metencephalon brain vesicle. There are at first 2 premodia, that is nothing but your rhombic lip present on the right and left side of the cerebellum. This extends medially in the roof plate of the metencephalon to eventually fuse across the midline part. As the cerebellum increase in size, fissures appears on its surfaces. Whatever the line-like structure I have written here, right? These line-like structures present both on your interventricular and extraventricular part. These are called as fissures. Okay, and it is also known as folia. That means leaf-like appearance. Okay, these topics will be discussed in detail in your gross part. Okay, so just try to remember, when the development takes place, there will be a formation of line-like structure or leaf-like structure in your cerebellum part. It is referred as folia and also fissures. Okay. The developing cerebellum can be divided into two parts, that is intraventricular part that bulges into the cavity of the developing fourth ventricle, and an extraventricular part that is seen as the bulging on the surface area. The cerebellum at first consists of the usual matrix cell, mantle and marginal layers as present in each and every structure of your brain vesicle part. Some cells of the mantle layer migrate into the marginal layer to form the external granular layer in the marginal zone. As a result, your white matter will be present in the inner aspect and your grey matter will be present on the outer aspect, only in the cerebellum part. Okay. The cells of the mantle layer that are not migrating into the cortex develop into your intercerebellar nuclei. Those are dentate, emboliform, globus and fastigial nuclei. So these are the four nuclei we can see in your cerebellum part. Those are dentate, emboliform, globus and fastigial nuclei. Okay. Any doubts in this? Any doubts? So this finishes your development of the hindbrain part. Okay. In the hindbrain, first we have seen the stop talking. In the hindbrain, first we have seen the division of two vesicles, that is metencephalon and myelencephalon. From the myelencephalon, we have studied the development of your medulla oblongata, and from the metencephalon, we have seen the development of your pons and cerebellum part. Development of your medulla oblongata and development of your pons is similar. All the structures, formation of your basal lamina and alar lamina and also the formation of columns in this particular region are similar. Only the change that we can see is the cranial nerves and nucleus related in the different structures. In the medulla oblongata region, we can see the cranial nerve 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th, and also 5th and 8th one partially, not fully. But in your pons region, we can see the presence or relation of your 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th cranial nerves. And also in the development of medulla oblongata, we will see one important topic, that is the bulbopontine expansion. Whatever the alar lamina cells move in the downward direction will give rise to your inferior olivary nucleus, and whatever the cells that move in the upward direction from your alar lamina will give rise to pontine nucleus. This formation or this process is collectively called as bulbopontine expansion. Okay. Next to that, in the pons development, we can see changes in the roof plate region, that is on the ends of the roof plate or on the right and left side of the roof plate, we can see a structure that is getting thick. That is referred as rhombic lips. From this rhombic lips, your entire cerebellum is going to develop. In the initial stage, your rhombic lip is present on the right and left side, and later it will start moving towards the midpoint of your roof plate. Okay. Once the fusion takes place, it will lead to the formation of two important parts of your cerebellum, that is intraventricular part and extraventricular part. Your intraventricular part will give rise to your future vermis, and your extraventricular part will give rise to your future cerebellar hemisphere. Whatever the line-like structures present on your cerebellum region is due to the differential growth of the cerebellum. It is called as fissures and also folia. That means a leaf-like appearance. Okay. Apart from that, whatever the cells that remain in your mantle cell layer will leads to the formation of intracerebellar nuclei. We have 4 intracerebellar nuclei, that is dentate, emboliform and fastigial and also globus. These are the 4 important nuclei we see in the cerebellar hemisphere. Any doubts in this? No doubts? Fine. Then in the evening, in the afternoon session, we'll discuss about the development of your midbrain and forebrain, so that we can finish the development of your brain part. Then we'll be left with 2 more topics, development of your ear and eye. If you finish that, your embryology part is going to finish. Okay. Then we'll finish this class. Thank you everyone.